Hi, everyone. A very good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And raise your hands if we are clearly audible. Participants,
Yes,
you can raise
both
your
my
hand.
hands.
Yes, both your hands. Thank you. Fantastic. So, thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning, taking time for this very, very important topic. Once again, a very good morning to all of you. I'm Dr. Purnama Rastogi, talent development leader and coach. And on behalf of ASM StratConsult, I extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this important discussion. But first, a little bit about us. At ASM StratConsult, our mission is to empower businesses with innovative, customized solutions that drive growth, efficiency, and sustainability. We aspire to be a trusted partner to corporations, government bodies, and especially to MSMEs, the backbone of India's economy. With expertise ranging from strategy and financial advisory to marketing, people management, sustainability, and legal consulting, we help businesses navigate complexity and unlock long term value. And that is why today's webinar reflects that very commitment that we have. MSMEs contribute nearly 30% of India's GDP, 45% of manufacturing unit, 48% of exports, and employ more than 110 million people. But despite this massive contribution, they continue to face disproportionate challenges when it comes to tariff and global trade. Tariff hikes, compliance complexity, and lack of policy awareness often stand as a barrier to their growth. That brings us to the theme of today's discussion: tariffs, trade, and MSME participation, balancing protection and competitiveness. We have our esteemed panel today that will delve into questions like: do tariffs protect MSMEs or increase their challenges? How can free trade agreements and e commerce be leveraged to expand globally? What policy interventions are needed to enhance MSME competitiveness? And we are truly privileged and honored to have with us three distinguished experts who will help us explore these questions from multiple dimensions. We have Dr. Soma Dey, Professor of Economics at the Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi, bringing an academic and research driven perspective. We have Ms. Deepti Pant, Senior Director of Head of International Relations at Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry of India, and Mr. Shomit Gupta, Government Policy Specialist, Export Promotion Council, New Delhi, sharing the policy and regulatory lens. Together, their academic, industry, and policy perspectives will ensure a holistic discussion on how India's MSMEs can thrive in a global trade environment. I would first like to invite Dr. Soma Dey to tell more about her and share her opening thoughts on how tariff regimes shape opportunities and challenges for MSMEs.
Okay, thank you. Please feel free to interrupt me any point of time. I am generally, when I'm teaching in class, I have a fair bit of idea about, what sort of academic backgrounds my audience is coming from. Here, as I'm told that it is a pretty diverse group from industries, students, academicians. So uh, probably some of the things I'm going to talk about are going to sound like you've already done it, and in some cases they will sound kind of exotic. So just feel free to interrupt me at any point of time, and I can go over the material. So when I was going through this, I got this invitation. Uh, Dr. Astogi, I have about 20 minutes. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So as I was going through this topic, which is the strategic insight for a shifting global landscape, of course, the thing that hits you the most about this particular situation that we are in with respect to the kind of changes that are happening in the tariff regime. I think the word shifting global landscape kind of is the keyword. Also, especially because uh, it is still shifting. And one of the things that, it's a kind of a new kind of regime where we are not exactly told what's going to happen. It's one thing that if you're told that, country ABC are going to do this, these are the tariff barriers, these are the non-tariff barriers, and then, you work around that. It is another thing when you say that you don't you don't give us a clear picture at all. And what we end up getting is this constant energy that we are spending trying to understand what comes next. And I'm I'm pretty sure our esteemed speakers from the industry will also talk about that. This uncertainty is what it is a thing that neither industries are particularly fond of, and academicians are also not fond of, because we don't know what to analyze if that keeps on happening. So what I intend to do here is give you a basic theoretical model of what tariff does. And in doing so, kind of, hopefully it's a very, I'm going to show you a very basic, simple graph that we do in macroeconomics when we are doing trade. There's nothing fancy about the graph, but the graph shows that what are some of the issues that arise out of tariff. So again, this might seem pretty trivial to students who have already gone through their economics courses, but I'm just going to spend 5 minutes on this. So this is a graph. You can see that we are talking about a market. Suppose we are talking about market for certain kind of say motor parts, accessories. Okay. And then let's assume that this market is more or less competitive, in the sense that the idea is that of a competitive market is not exactly we're following uh, the 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 perfect definition of competition, but saying more or less competitive means producers do not have a lot of leverage when it comes to choosing prices. And those prices are generally determined by how much demand is there in the market and external conditions that determine the market supply. So in that sense, let's assume we are talking about a competitive market. In that competitive market, so I've drawn the red line is a downward sloping demand, meaning if you have horizontal axis, if you have price, and on the vertical axis, in the vertical axis you have price, and horizontal axis you have quantity, then it's saying that consumers prefer low prices. They're going to buy more if your prices are low. That's the meaning of a downward sloping demand. An upward sloping supply means producers, on the other hand, they would like to produce more, sell more if the prices are high. And conveniently, in a competitive market, if these are straight lines, which is a big if, then the point at which they intersect is going to be the price and quantity at which the market is going to be resolved. So for all people in the market, if this is a competitive market for, say, auto parts or certain kind of jewelries, then this is a downward sloping demand, upward sloping supply. The point at which it intersects is a point we are only going to observe. The only point we are going to observe is that point, because everything else these are constructs. We have created models to model consumer behavior. We have created models to model supply behavior with the overall understanding that consumers like low price and producers would produce more if the prices are high. So if you are in such an economy, and suppose there is now kind of free trade, that you are able to sell your good outside producer are also willing to can sell you their products in your market, then this P world, if you see the horizontal line here, P world is when you are exposed to the world. This is suppose this is the price that prevails in the market. Okay, and you can see that very intentionally, this price I've put it below the intersection point of the blue line and the red line. Meaning, what does it mean? It means that suppose when you were operating domestically in a market which only had domestic buyers and domestic sellers, your price was somewhere there, up there, where the two lines are intersecting. But the moment you allow it opens up to the world, if other companies are more efficient than you are, that generally will lead to a fall in price. Okay, so if you think about US, for example, if you take a look at US before say the 80s, before they were exposed to this very huge production of, petty clothing items from China, when that floodgate from China opened, we saw that in the US market, price of these small items, they fell. Small clothing items fell. Okay, so if you're only doing it through the domestic producers, then the price consumers would have faced was higher. But the moment you open it up to the world, you end up getting a lower price. Okay, so you can already see that this is in a kind of there is this if you are a domestic producer, you may not be very happy when this thing happens. So if this P world is now the new price in the market, then you can see that you will be producing according to your supply. The domestic producer are going to supply what they can, given this low price, which is going to be low, which is QS1. But the consumers are going to be really happy because at that price they would demand a lot, which is the QC1. Okay, so the difference between the QS1 and QC1 is going to be satisfied by getting that particular good from outside. Okay, so this is what trade does. If and that's not always the case, if trade results in lowering of price, then that lowering of price means that, and nothing substantially changes for domestic producers, then domestic producers end up selling a little less, consumers end up getting a little more, and that extra part that comes from trade. Okay, so this is more or less what trade does. And then we talk about and therefore we talk about gains from trade, because if there was no trade, then of course the domestic producers would have been better off, but consumers would have been worse off, and the total quantity bought and sold in the market would have been less. In this case, the domestic producers are a little worse off, which is denoted by this concept called producer surplus, which I've marked there, but let's not get into that. Domestic producers are a little worse off because they are getting a cheaper price, plus they are selling less. The domestic consumers are very happy because they are getting their entire, whatever they want, they're getting, and the price is low. And the remainder, which the domestic suppliers cannot produce, is coming from outside. So it's great news for consumers. And for all if you take the case of US, because that's the one that we're talking about, one of the sticking point for domestic producers have been that with the onset of Chinese cheap manufacturing and opening up of due to trade, the domestic producers did suffer. And that is absolute, and this is a big political story. So if you go to the Midwest, I'm sure the industry experts will talk about it. There are stories of factories shutting, automobile parts, and things like that. Big automobile companies reducing their production. All these stories, laying off people, they are all right. They are all true. But the other side of the story is that this is also the era during which American consumers ended up getting these products at a much cheaper price. And if if it's clothing and you are saying, who cares if clothing is cheap? A lot of people do care if clothing is cheap. But now think of if this is automobile parts. If automobile parts are cheaper, then this is input for the production process. So not only consumers are going to be happier, but other producers are going to be happier. And that other producers is not in there in this graph. So this is the complicated story of global trade. And one of the things that economists are cognizant of, but maybe we have not articulated that well, is that free trade can definitely create good things, particularly like if the situation like is like that for consumers. It can also create hardship for domestic producers. That's also true. And as a result of that, it can also create situation where people end up losing their jobs. So fall in income. These are all possible side effects of trade. And the way economies dealt with it, and I think we should have done a better job of that. We said that, what we need is, the fancy word is sectoral reallocation, meaning you need to do something else. You don't be in this, in this particular market, because this market is getting now more competitive. Either you become very good in what you're doing and you start selling the product at a cheaper price. That means you do technological innovation, or you change business model, you do things better. Or you think about how you can, maybe go into another industry. And to the people who were losing their job, he said, why are you going to think that semi-skilled or certain kind of skill in manufacturing, maybe those kind of skills are not so much valued? Why don't you think about sectoral allocation, in the sense that why don't you go and find jobs in other sectors? So this was what economists were saying, but as I said, maybe our messaging was not done in the proper way. And in free trade, there has been gains, and there has been people who have gained, and there have been people, communities who have lost. And so this brings us to the discussion about globalization, which is, by the way, a very intrinsic part of what is going on right now. And at some point of time, I hope we'll get the time. I'll talk a little bit about it. That this anti-globalization stance, which we're getting manifested in certain countries in a big way. For some time, a lot of countries were actually playing with this, including ours. So this is something, and this is probably where this is coming from. Again, don't want to get into but this is the kind of the root cause of the people who have different opinions about globalization and free trade. Now, what happens with tariff, and we'll talk about why the governments introduced tariff in the first place. So it's a market intervention. Tariff is a market intervention, right? What happens in tariff is basically you increase the price. Okay, you increase the price. If there are people who are buying stuff from another country, and the domestic country imposes tariff, that means that person now has to pay more. Okay, basically that means prices are going up. Now, when prices go up, of course, what happens when price goes up in this graph, when it goes from this P world to this P tariff, from this P world to this P tariff, you can see that what ends up happening, because it's a higher price, it is going to attract now a lot more domestic producers will now be able to supply those who were not earlier able to supply. So this QS2 is going to be the new domestic supply. And because the price is high, the consumer demand is going to be less. So instead of QC1, which was the consumer demand before, now the consumer demand is going to be QC2. So what tariff does is, it is exactly equal to an increase in price. So what increase in price does, it's great news for producers, but it may not be, meaning it may be a great news for domestic producers, by the way. But it's not a good news for consumers, definitely. And it is also not a good news for people who are trading with you, who are trading in this domestic market, the foreign firms who are supplying in this domestic market. Because what happens for them, the total amount that they're going to sell, that diminishes. That diminishes from this, QC1 minus QS1, this big area, big line, to this smaller line. Okay, so that's one contraction that happens. So the consumers, they lose out in terms of price. Foreign firms, they lose out in terms of price. They lose out because price is higher and the quantity they're selling is less. And the domestic producers, they may be gaining. Of course, there's a big may here. And one of the other things is the government ends up collecting tax revenue. So you can see that when there's free trade, the government was not collecting any tax revenue. Now government gets the amount that is sold in the market by foreign firms. times the amount of tariff, this blue area, this blue mauve area, this is what government ends up making money. So what happens? That brings us to the question of why tariff? Why do governments impose tariff? Okay. So of course it's a market intervention, and anybody who has done economics 101 will tell you that market interventions are generally costly in terms of efficiency. So you can show mathematically that this leads to loss in efficiency, and there's several measures of that. So if it is inefficient, plus it raises price, plus it reduces our total output that is bought and sold, this is an intervention that means that it has some cost associated with it. So why would government do it? So there are certain reasons, and I'm pretty sure all of you who are there are aware of these reasons, but let me just go through them. Of course, the first reason is, and this is generally what is also the stated reason for governments doing it, for some reason or the other, the government thinks that the domestic producers have not gotten a good deal. They may feel that, or they have been exposed to competition, which is by some definition is not fair. This is one way for them to say that, we are going to give you a kind of a little bit of a support. So it can be the reason for tariff can be protecting domestic either industries or specific companies. It is a kind of a policy that favors the sellers, domestic sellers. So, if the government has something in their mind that that's when they'll do it. The other thing is that by doing that, by protecting or by giving this sense that the government is here to protect you, it might change behavior of industries and firms. Saying that, this is a kind of the crux of the argument, which has a bad reputation, but I'm still going to say it out loud. The infant industry argument. That when you are an infant, you need a little bit of support. Infants need support. Infants cannot walk on their own, they need support. So we are going to support till this, whatever human being, in this case industry, is an infant. And when it grows up, then we are going to slowly reduce the support so that industry or company can stand on its own. So this is kind of the if there are certain kind of industries which are getting a little bit more support than other, and there can be the industrial strategic reasons for doing that, then that infant industry argument also will end up creating certain kind of allocation. So basically, the government trying to get its hand into sort of a sectoral allocation. Okay, and again, this is both the first and the second ones makes economies very nervous, because protection is it sounds good, but a lot of time we have seen examples where protectionism has given rise to inefficient. So as an economist, I'm going to be skeptical when I hear the word protectionism, but we understand there might be reason for doing it. The other part, which is a bigger one, that the government is choosing the kind of the winners, or who are the ones who should be given extra support. That again makes a lot of people who in academics a little uncomfortable, because that means that you are not letting the market forces decide what sectoral allocations are optimal, and you are bringing in a government which has its agenda, its objective function, and even with the best of motivations, they may not be in a position to take. So as I said, I'm not making a normative call right now, but I'm saying that this is what makes economists a little nervous. But anyway, let's move ahead. Third is, of course, revenue generation. Revenue generation, it does give rise to revenue generation, and depending on the how government ends up spending that revenue, it might directly pumping that money into specific sectors and industries, or for measures that increase our competitiveness. If that happens, then generally it's a good idea. If that revenue generation goes into consumption expenditure, then it's then a lot of economists are not going to be happy. Anything that, any revenue that is generated and goes into investment are considered as better use of revenue as opposed to consumption, because consumption means you're going to consuming and it's going to be over. And of course, the other reason is there can be other by strategy. I don't mean industrial strategy, because that's what I talked about in the second point. This I more in the tune of geopolitical strategizing. This there can be a reason why. If the classic example, we are living in fantastic time where we are actually we are sitting in, we are getting examples, right now unfolding in front of our eyes. A lot of it doesn't seem like economic logic. It seems like there are other geopolitical reasons for this, this kind of interventions that certain governments are doing. So, that can also be a reason. Government is a complicated thing, so it has a number of reasons why it would want to do that. As I think I've already mentioned, what are some of the problems? Problems is it theoretically it will increase price for the domestic consumers. See, it is a complicated, and I say this statement with a grain of salt. It is, so for example, the example that is getting talked about the most is that suppose now that US is imposing so much tariff on so many countries of the world, will there be effect on consumer prices? That's one of the questions that is getting asked. I am not in a position to answer this question, right? But the theoretical underpinning is because the tariffs are so widespread, that it will end increasing prices of a lot of commodities that consumers buy. Now, there are, of course, a lot of big question marks there that, how much of that, if there's an increase in price of a commodity, it's not that consumers always pay the entirety of that. It will depend on a concept called, the concept has a name, but it depends on what is the product. If it is a product that, consumers or producers of intermediate goods cannot live with, then probably that will have an impact on the prices consumers end up paying. Okay, but overall, there's the direction is tariffs generally end up, and widespread tariffs, not tariff on one or two items. Widespread tariffs generally end up increasing price, because for the simple reason you are increasing the price of commodities. Now that commodity, how big is that commodity in your this whatever bundle, price index bundle you are calculating, that will ultimately define how much inflation you're going to see. But theoretically, it's very hard to run away from the fact that it's going to lead to increase in price. So that's number one. Number two is, of course, it is going to be, tariffs are generally not great news for foreign producers, because foreign producers, particularly with those kind of trading partners with whom they have had a long relation, because they optimize their supply chain according to the needs of their buyers. They will probably do specific changes to a product based on the needs of the buyer, and all of a sudden, due to not any fault of their own, if prices go up, then they can. It is not a bad assumption to say that unless it's an essential commodity, to the extent that there are no substitutes, consumers are going to pull back on their purchases. And so to that extent, those producers are going to face less demand. So it's not good news for foreign producer. And I think there are right now also a little bit of an example of that's what we are also seeing in various markets. And the third concern is a more, economists bother about this more. Maybe businesses don't bother about this a lot because, it seems like a little abstract. But if you are putting tariff on particular sectors, industries, okay, it changes the pattern of, it may end up changing in the middle and the long run, the pattern of production in various sectors. So, and you will do your resource allocation based on not what is dictated by the market forces, but dictated by other kind of interventions, like for example tariff and other non-trade barriers. Okay? So this theoretically this may result in a misallocation of resource. You might be doing, might be thinking that the market dictates that I be in this particular kind of say particular food processing unit, I should be part of that. But because of tariff, you see that food processing is getting very contentious. So why don't I do, I don't know, maybe I do manufacturing of some small electric items. So this kind of reallocation depending on where the tariff is put, this has long-term implication in terms of overall efficiency of a country. There is certain thing called overall industrial efficiency of a country. So it will end up affecting that, and that's what makes people, economists, a little nervous. What
Dr. Soma,
next? Yes,
sorry,
yes,
was
please.
just doing a little time check. And if you can summarize, and we can come back to this later as well.
Absolutely. So I'll just give me 5 more
Sure.
minutes.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So the knock-on effects will be, and I think I'm guessing there will be questions on this. Knock-on effects are on employment, because if the foreign producers have to reduce their production, that affects employment. It also can affect domestic employment. And the reason being is that what are you importing? Are you importing goods? For example, there is a 50%, if there is a 50% tariff on aluminum and steel, that is used in a whole lot of industries. So, that will have effect on other tertiary industry not intended for. So employment can be a problem. Economic growth can be a problem because, as I said, overall it reduces efficiency. And of course, the third thing can be knock-on effects can be, a lot of this arbitrary, if the changes are made not in a systematic but in an arbitrary manner, that also can make political relations more contentious. Just going to go into, I think I'm going to take this as a question, but just because we are thinking about US, and when we are thinking about tariff at this point of time, some of the major exports to US are in these areas: gems and jewelries, electronic and engineering goods, drugs, on which there is on pharma product there is no tariff yet, petroleum product, and textile. So these are the big ones. And the reason this is important to us is because a lot of these have MSMEs are the part of the group that are actually doing this trade. So that's what particularly in things like small machineries, gems and jewelry, and electric and electronic components. This is the kind of the list of products on which we have tariffs. And again, think if you have to do an analysis of what will be the impact on MSME and employment, we'll have to go case by case and take a look at the tariff that is imposed on each of the sectors, and what are the employment numbers, infrastructure, efficiency of those sectors. For example, textile apparel is an obvious one. Textile apparel is going to face a very, very high tariff compared to other countries which are also our neighbors. So, and it is a sector which is it is a very labor intensive sector. It is also a sector where there is a lot of efficiency problems. So, this is not going to be very easy for this sector to make big changes in a small period. It's possible, but I'm just saying that this is not one of those, sectors where it has been a relatively slow changing sector. So, of course, we'll have to pay. And similarly with gems and jewelry, that also employs a lot of people and a lot of small companies associated with this. So I'm not going to show you this, but I'm just going to give you two sources. This is my take on what I think will be affected the most. We can talk a little bit more about this. And MSMEs are pretty big. I'm sure you know this better than I do. But in certain sectors, they are very, very big. So, those are the sectors particularly where we have to keep our eyes. Because see, even if right now the big talk between US and India is happening probably in the agriculture sector. We don't know the details. At least I don't know the details. So agricultural sector, but there are other sectors also which are of strategic importance to us because these are very labor intensive sectors, and also it has a lot of MSMEs. So, if you have to pay attention to any of these sectors, I would say, these are the ones who are the obvious candidates. Now, just going to make one remark and I'm going to stop. See, tariffs, uh, India has been doing uh, a little bit of tariff and, meaning what I'm trying to say is that over the last few years, decade, India has also become a little bit more close with respect to trade. We have imposed, I mean, we encourage FDI, but in terms of a lot of products, we have also imposed substantial amount of cost for foreign firms. And if you don't believe me, you can go and check. And the reason for this is that we want to protect domestic industry, we want to give them support, etc. Right? I joke to my, to my master students that Indians have this tendency of holding on to their kids for a little bit longer. And we tend to protect them a little bit longer than maybe absolutely necessary. Maybe we have the similar kind of, even today, something happens in my class, the parents call the office. They don't call me because, if I absolutely don't take their calls. This is not done because, master students' parents cannot call me. But this is what, so, this, I also feel that with respect to industry, we sometimes end up doing that we are being holding their hands for too long. And it is, so is protectionism needed for a variety of sectors where a lot of people are employed? I'm guessing that I agree that there is a point for that. But when you are doing protectionism for a very long time, it becomes harder to argue with somebody else that you should not be engaging in protectionism. So, I'm just saying that internal consistency is something which we'll have to, and then all of a sudden we are saying, oh, we are going to get rid of all tariffs. No worries, we are going to get rid of all tariffs, right? So what is it, which one is it? So a little bit of consistency in this would be a good thing. We need to think what we want to do. So that, and then we want to promote exports. How's that going to happen? You're going to protect, we a different set of rules for us and a different set of rules for others. Generally, is people don't like it. Probably countries. I'm sure you remember Donald Trump, and he's a mercurial, whatever his characteristic. In his previous terms, also he mentioned about Harley Davidson, and his pet peeve was that we are not giving Harley Davidson a good deal, right? Because we were imposing a lot of restrictions on them. So what I'm saying is that why I'm calling this impossible trinity, I'm just letting it open for you to think and discuss. We have, if you do a lot of protectionism, trying to protect our own industries, and then when it gets repeated on us, we'll have to do some big soul searching as to what is the consistent stand we want to take. And you cannot say the rules are different from us and different from others. And if it's a person who's bigger than me, then I'm going to change the rule. Somebody who needs to depend on me, the rules are going to be different. This is very inconsistent. That's all I'm saying. And the third point is that FDI. Okay, FDI is another arm, way in which we want to get foreign technology and everything in, right? But again, FDI is going to be a function of the overall environment that you create for trade. If you have a lot of other kinds of problems, and even non-trade related barrier, of course corruption is one big one. Then this is you are why would foreign companies come with their know-hows and share with you? So what I'm trying to say is that let's have this discussion about tariff in the context of our overall trade policy. And my only take is that we cannot have these discussions separately in silos, because that's not how free trade and globalization works. So that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to stop unless you have these are the ones I find these two sites interesting. One is this, the first one is where it's a legal firm, but they do a pretty good job tracking the tariffs because things are changing so quickly. So I find this useful. The other one is this Yale. There's a at Yale there is a thing called a budget lab. So they track. It's from an academic perspective. They track data and they also do analysis. For example, you'll see that Yale Lab have given for each industry, they have given analysis of what do they think will happen in the short term and the long run in terms of, say, increase in price or other variables. So they have done their estimation. These are all academic exercises, but I feel that this is a good benchmark to keep in mind while we're having this discussion. Dr. Astogi, how much
Sure.
did I?
That's fine. That's fine, ma'am. I think you're very, very passionate about what you do. And thanks for sharing your perspective on global landscape shift. And with that, to take this conversation ahead, now let me invite our next panelist, Miss Deepti Pant, to share her expertise in global trade and partnerships. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Soma. It was really a very good insight. In fact, I think academics has so much to offer, but unfortunately, we are not able to connect the academic with the industry, and somewhere all these insights get lost. But in Chambers, we are trying to,
We also need to connect with you. So many times I've thought, Sarki, what is the data? How do I take a look at the data? So maybe this is a good way to connect.
Yeah, and they can really play a lot of role in terms of predicting a lot of vulnerabilities which are there recently. So, I think once we all work collectively, the chambers, the academics, and the industry, a lot of our problems might get resolved in a longer run if we are talking about. Because these things are basically the shockers for us to bring us back to the senses. COVID came and it gave us a lot of learnings. People adapted digitalization and tech, and then a few things changed. But I guess tariffs are again such sort of, I feel it's a sort of a good thing for us to look at our export revolutionization, that how can we reduce our dependencies, especially with the geographies where we are just doing business with closed eyes. We need to think beyond, and that is what I think today a lot of our people who have joined, they will be able to understand that it is just a sort of a message for us and a learning in a big way. So I request if Saptarshi can upload my presentation, or should I do it?
uh, Whichever way you are comfortable, ma'am. So if you want me, I can do it. So
Sure, I think I can also share it. Yeah, it's open.
yeah,
Yeah, is it visible?
yes, ma'am.
So just briefly to give us a sense of what India-US trade relation is about, and what has been our relationship with US. We had been having a bilateral trade of $190 billion, in 2024, and India's top three exports to US have been pharmaceutical, telecom, instruments, and precious stones. And while US runs a deficit of $45.7 billion, and historically, our trade has been more about, whenever there has been issues, then US side has been negotiating with us on tariff reductions from our side, because mostly, to be fair to them, we have been protectionist in terms of our industries, and when we talk about these a lot of tariffs, it says reciprocative. So which means that we have also imposed a similar set of tariffs on US products, and that's what they are trying to retaliate us with. And technically that is the whole war is about. And if we talk about the duties which has been imposed. So it started with a 25% duty implemented from 1st August 2025. And an additional duty which was imposed due to which was the reason was given for the Russian oil imports that India has been doing, and a lot of our energy players have been importing that. And the recent tariffs have been justified by US side under Section 232, which is a national security, and Section 301, which is unfair trade practices of US trade laws. And they also reflect the geopolitical motives that were tied to India's Russian oil purchases and BRICS memberships, which we have been hearing recently. So just to give you an idea about the list of Indian products impacted by US tariff rates, and the top products, which are the 14 products which would be seeing an impact because of the tariff rate. And I've done a whole comparative in the sense that tariff rate from August 7th, 2025, and also, from 27th August onwards, how it will be impacted. Textiles and apparels, we see ranging from 25% for now. It may go up to 50%. Gems and jewelry, similarly 25 to 50%. Leather footwear, it is again 25 to 50%. Marine products, 33.26 to 58.26%. Chemicals, 25 to 50%. Automobile and auto parts, 25 to 50%. Iron and steel and aluminum, 25% to 50%. Agriculture products, again 25 to 50%. Machinery and goods, ceramic, glass, stone, rubber items, paper, wood, furniture, and dairy products. Dairy products are the badly hit, which is around 56 to 81% for now. So if we see this schedule, this is where if we see, these are all the major sectors where we have a strength in our Indian economy, and we have been majorly exporting, and most of them have been hit by the tariffs. If we see the relative comparative of the tariffs between India and not the world, but basically our neighbors, our close surrounding partners. So Japan, they have imposed 17%, and it is going to be, 7th August, it is 15%. South Korea, again, 27%, it has gone down to 15%, and Philippines, 17 to 19%. It has increased. Malaysia, 24 to 19%. Pakistan, 29 to 19%. Indonesia, 32 to 19%. Thailand, 36 to 19%. Cambodia, it is again 49 to 19%. Taiwan region, it is 32 to 20%. Bangladesh is again 37 to down with 20%. Sri Lanka, 44 to 20%, Vietnam 46 to 20%, and India from 26 to 50%. So if we see, we have been the one which have been the biggest hit in the region. And definitely, a lot of these countries, when we talk about, which is Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines, and South Korea, Japan, and Bangladesh, they all have a manufacturing edge on a lot of sectors comparative to us. That means they will be able to sell at much cheaper rates to US comparative to us. So, and when US customers, they have to buy, they will definitely be looking at, where to buy and where it is going to be cheaper. It does not mean cheaper in terms of quality, because all of these countries we know have been known for their standard quality, and it is the pricing that we are talking about. So I don't think anywhere amongst these countries we have an edge when we are talking about, the situation after 50% tariffs. The most impacted sectors, if I have to again filter out, for that matter, it is the product. If I say it is HS code 57, which is carpets and floor coverings. Your HS code 63, which is textiles and textile articles. Your 94, furniture and furnishings. Number 68, stone, cement and related articles. And number 30, pharmaceuticals. Why pharmaceuticals? Though it is not right now, but pharmaceuticals is a though it is not there, but it is under the investigation. And as per the intel, it may go up to as high as 200%, which means that they must be considered as a high risk category for now. And if we conclude that our MSMEs have a 45.7% stake in the India's merchandise exports, so one of the biggest people who are going to be hit by the tariffs are going to be the MSMEs for sure. And because they have been the people who have been supplying broadly the textile, gems and jewelry, engineering goods and agriculture processing goods. So all these figures give us a sense that MSMEs are going to be hit with the tariffs. So immediate, I have broadly divided it into two parts, which is the immediate fallout of the tariffs and the long-term effects that we can, which are going to be there. One is that there will be a higher input cost for us. Cash flows stress would be there because you won't be getting too much orders, and people will have to, work as per the conditions laid down by their clients, their customers. Price competitiveness loss, because as I mentioned that there are many countries which have a competitive edge compared to us in the close neighbor itself. Disrupted supply chain would be there, and short-term uncertainty and delayed orders. And the long-term effects which are going to be there is import substitution opportunities would be there for us, because we will have to see that which are the cheaper sources of us to import the raw materials, and how to become more competitive in terms of cost, because we have to see that in spite of these tariffs, how good quality material at a cheaper rate we are able to supply to the counterparts. And innovation and value addition pressure would be there, because we have to stand out in a different way compared to our neighbors who are good at us in textiles and several other sectors. So what difference can we give to the countries whom we are exporting, especially US also, what difference we are going to value add in our products is going to be something which is important for us to highlight, and this will be a long term effect. Market realignment would be there again, because we have to then look for different geographies, and again finding new partners and all. It is going to create a disruption for sure. Productivity and technology adaptation. Because we have to go for the best standardizations, our products have to be good quality and meeting all the standards. Then vulnerability for trade wars is going to be there, because anytime any of the raw materials that we have dependencies, like China recently imposed a ban on certain products that they were exporting to us. So it created, so if these parallel trade wars with other countries happens, then again it is going to be vulnerable for the businesses. And policy dependence and uncertainty is going to be there. So immediate action for the businesses for 0 to 6 months, if we talk about, is going to be number one, market intelligence and compliances. So tariff schedules, they need to track on a regular basis sector-wise implications and HS code specific rules. A lot of the research agencies, including the chambers of commerce like ASSOCHAM, have already been doing a lot of sensitization to the industry in terms of which sector is going to be impacted with how much tariffs, and what is going to be the technical impact. So all those things we have already been doing, and the businesses need to be aware about these as much as possible, and ensure that all shipments comply with US custom rules to avoid any penalties or delays. So point number one is this. Second is cost optimization. As I mentioned, that they need to renegotiate with suppliers to absorb the part of the tariff impact. Explore domestic sourcing alternatives for imported inputs, I mean cheaper destinations. Then use bonded warehouses or US based distributors to reduce the logistics cost escalations. Similarly, for customer retention, businesses will have to work with US buyers to restructure the contracts and have long-term payment cycles, provide flexible support terms, and splitting the tariff burden if possible, and strengthen the after-sale services and product reliability to offset price disadvantages. The medium-term strategy for a year is going to be, number one, diversifying to high-potential alternate markets. If we see that for the product categories that I had mentioned that they are the badly hit, the 5 categories, for them, we see that we have 5, listed the countries which could be the potential alternate destination for them, like carpets and floor coverings. When we talk about Sweden, Australia, Canada, UK, and Germany are, the potential markets, and they have been, having a good domestic demand as well. And similarly, talking about the textiles, if we talk about Saudi Arabia and UAE, they have been offering expanding and high income markets for us. So we need to put a focus there, especially the Middle Eastern markets. And similarly, UK, Spain, Germany, and Canada also are the next few alternatives that the businesses can look at. Furniture and furnishings, if we talk about, so again, UK, Germany, France, Canada, and Netherlands are the key markets, and this is based on their imports of these products that they have been doing. So in a big way, if we try to push for our products in these geographies, it could be that we can enter and get a substantial share. And the only thing that we need to also be careful about is a niche branding, because all these countries would need a high quality and a best post sales services that we would be offering. So therefore, if we want money, we have to deliver. Similarly, for stone, cement, and related products, as we see that UAE is at a construction boom, Saudi Arabia is under a lot of reconstruction, and a lot of work is being happening. So maybe if these sectors focus in these countries, they will have a lot of edge apart from Germany, UK, France, and Canada. And Germany and UK have shown stable growth in this sector. So again, they are a stable market. Only thing that is to be ensured by businesses is that certification for sustainability and precision cutting can open doors for them for high margins in architecture products. So they have to be ensuring that part in this sector. Talking about pharmaceutical products, South Africa and Nigeria have the fastest growing demand for affordable generics and align with India's scale and price advantages. So we need to put our focus to Africa a bit, and which is again, has been quite neglected by our businesses. From a long time, Africa has been welcoming to us for many occasions, but our businesses have not shown that sort of interest comparatively to other counterparts. Similarly, UK and Australia and Germany also have, the opportunity, because it lies especially in the specialty generics and biosimilars and supply chain dependabilities which are there. So broadly talking about that, this is the diversification that businesses can look at, especially for these 5 sectors. Again, so as I mentioned, that we need to reduce dependency on the US by expanding into alternative markets. We have EU, Middle East, Africa, ASEAN, and Latin America that we can look at. We have to tap India's preferential access, especially the recent FTAs, which are the most modern FTAs that our Ministry of Commerce has negotiated with UAE, UK, and Australia. And EU is underway. We have bilateral FTAs with several other countries. New Zealand is underway. Your GCC FTA is under discussions. Bilaterals with Oman and Qatar are already under negotiations. Your Chile and Peru is under negotiations. So bilaterally, lot of FTAs are already underway, and I think it is time that we benefit out of these preferential accesses that we have. And value chain re-engineering is important. We have to look at setting up a partial assembly or processing unit in third countries with favorable US tariff treatments. Maybe, Mexico, Vietnam, UAE, they have a lesser tariff rate. And if we try to put up some of our facilities, manufacturing facilities, businesses will be able to, set off their losses because of, the tariff increase. They need to collaborate with US partners for joint ventures to bypass the tariffs. That is another possibility which could be looked at. Product differentiation, when we move up to the value chain again, exporting high quality, niche and customized products that are less price sensitive, that is what gives us an edge. So especially when we are talking about ready-made garments and textiles, and even the home furnishings, we need to give that niche and quality in order to enter some of the geographies that we just discussed. And we need to leverage India's strength in design, sustainability, and certifications. So that is again, an important aspect. Technology and productivity upgrades. This is very, very important, especially for our MSMEs. We need to invest in automation, AI-driven production planning, and learn manufacturing to reduce per unit costs. So once we work on that, probably we will become more competitive, and we'll be able to, even after the whatever the tariff is, we will be able to give a competitive pricing. And we need to adopt to green technologies. This is a must for all our SMEs when we are talking about, because soon CBAM and other mandates would be applicable on the whole of the business segment. And if we don't comply to that, then we will have another trouble coming in. So therefore, ESG norms have to be slowly, steadily imbibed within the value chains. And I think a lot role also is to be played by the large sector and the big players to handhold the SMEs and the people who are down the line in their supply chain, to help them adopt ESG norms slowly, steadily, rather than just, one day it becomes a shocker for us. So this was just a brief about the tariffs and trade, and just to give you an idea about the chambers. Chambers do have an important role when it comes to helping the Indian industry and navigating the way in the global scenario. Talking about ASSOCHAM, the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We are a 105-year-old oldest apex chambers of commerce in India. And we have been supporting the Indian industry through various knowledge contributions that we have been doing, and also have been playing a strong role between the government and the private sector in order to help them with a lot of business issues that they have been having in a day-to-day business environment. We have around 270 plus association partnerships within India and overseas, and a direct and indirect outreach to 450,000 industry members across India. We have a 150 plus team and 15 state offices. As you see that we have been working in various segments where we have been helping the Indian industry in policy advocacy, international connect, business development services, industry competitiveness, technology, sustainability, and community outreach. And our businesses have been engaging with us on a very long-term basis and have found value in us. Some of the key tenets of the international division, which I head, is that global outreach. We have been, doing a lot of global outreach in terms of, exploring the new geographies with the support of our Indian missions and overseas Indian missions here. We have a strong MOU partner network through which we have been also helping their businesses explore business opportunities and investment opportunities in India. Trade and investment promotion, we have been doing through various business engagements, high level head of state visits, ministerial visits, trade fairs, participation, seminars, overseas missions, conferences, and roadshows. Policy advocacy, we have been already engaged into various regional bilateral FTAs that our government has been negotiating. And market intelligence is again one of the important areas that we have been helping our businesses to understand and get those intels. Just to put it a small example, that if we talk about palm oil we have been importing in a big way with some of our neighboring countries like Malaysia. If you see, that has been one of the major reasons for our lopsided and trade deficit with Malaysia. And if you will see that Colombian palm oil can be imported in India, at least and the landing price is around $10 lesser than what we are importing from Malaysia. So when we talk about such things, businesses are not aware a lot of time, and palm oil is used in a lot of food process, food items that we have been consuming, and a lot of other areas where it has been used massively, and because we are importing it in a big way. If we shift and look for such little diversions and a little diversification in trade, we can largely change our export import scenario in a big way. So these are the things that we need to see, but businesses need handholding, and that's where we come into the picture. And similarly, we have been engaging in a lot of business networking sessions and capacity building from time to time. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to connect with you all. This is my number and this is my email ID. Please feel free to connect with me on whatever topic you want. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was very, very insightful. Even I, as a layman, could understand what this trade war that's going on means. Now we have our final panelist, Mr. Shomit Gupta, and over to you, sir, to share your insights on policies and how it's impacting all of us.
Good afternoon, all, and thank you, ma'am, Shaw ma'am, for that lovely insight in igniting that economics again. Because I myself is an economics student. I did from Delhi University, and thank you, Deepti ma'am, for such a beautiful insight on US. And it was really lovely to see you. I'll start my presentation. I guess it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll be focusing more upon MSMEs and what can be the routes on which the MSMEs can overcome the difficulties which are being faced, not just with respect to the tariffs, but on a global platform. So India's total merchandise exports since 1819 has been increasing with a slight fall in 2021, which everyone knows that was because of the COVID. And again, it was a slight fall which was seen in 2023 and 24 as compared to 22. It was because of the India-Ukraine war and the Red Sea crisis, because Red Sea is a very important route where the cargo is taken, and it approximately carries around 30 to 40% of the global container traffic. If I talk about financial year 24-25, the major items which are exported by India is the petroleum and refinery, which is HS code 27. Then electronics, which has risen quite recently, just after 2021, because of the recent measures which has been taken by the government in terms of PLI schemes, and it has been numerous. Then after that, engineering has always been in focus and has remained among the top 3 exporting products from India. Then the fourth is gem and jewelry. Next is pharma, and predominantly, if you see, it's the engineering goods which has dominated the India's export market. If I talk about like the share of MSME in the global India's GDP, it has hovered around 25 to 30%, and it has not seen a very sharp increase over these years. And I'll later talk upon like what have been the factors behind this. And the share of MSMEs in total merchandise exports has also been between 45 to 50%. And if you see, there has been a slight downfall in this. If actually I'm from the electronics sector, I'm with the Electronics and Computer Software Export Promotion Council, and we have been interacting with the MSMEs, which is good amount in the electronics sector. So I got to know that the major reason behind the underperformance of the MSME sector has been the lack of information they have about the benefits which the government has given to the MSME to outperform, despite of having a significant share in the India's GDP, which I've shown you earlier, and also because of the lack of access to resources. So this has been a very common points which I've been able to figure out the reason behind the underperformance of MSME. So I'll broadly divide into two. First would be tariff and non-tariff barriers, and second would be the recommendations or possibly the measures which will help MSME to overcome. First is the tariff and non-tariff barriers. Actually, India, as on date, has signed up 20 trade agreements, of which the 14 are the non-tariff barriers and 6 are preferential trade agreements. If I don't get into depth, I would broadly say that the preferential trade agreements are the first level of an trade agreement which is signed between the two countries. And as on as the years pass on, and if the understanding between the two countries or the group of countries develop, they enter into a free trade agreement. So and basically the objective behind any government of entering into a trade agreement is to avoid the MFN rates, which is applicable if the two countries are not into a trade agreement. The MFN rate is applicable, but once they enter into it, they decide the tariff according to their preferential sectors which we want to protect or not, or which they want to open up the gates, and also to relax and evade the non-tariff barriers, because non-tariff barriers, though it is perceived that they are not very much uh, hold much importance, but they actually hold equal importance at that of the tariff barriers. I believe it because tariff is which is very transparent and very easily recognizable. If a person is entering into a market to export, it's very recognizable. But non-tariff barrier is also an hindrance which adds to the difficulty to any exporter who is exporting and entering into the global market. Uh, as I told that since the first is the preferential trade agreement, which is a very basic one, and as on we move, we enter into a free trade agreement, of which you can see that there are various types of trade agreements giving different levels of access to a particular market. And uh, I shared the link also wherein I believe that the having in-hand information before entering into a market, a person should have information about the tariff barriers, like what kind of hindrances they would face, which is not very much visible, and how they can overcome. Here, the Export Promotion Council plays a very important role in overcoming these TBTs, because once a country enters into a trade agreement with any country, it is into a phasing out phase if the tariff is there. Like you can see, was in the case of UAE and India trade agreement, which was signed up. And herein, the non-tariff barriers are not very much seen. So EPC plays a very vital role in countering this and highlighting these TBTs on a global front with having a G2G meeting. And they act as a platform between a voice between the industry and the government to take this thing forward. As in, see, as was into electronics computer software, I have myself seen that there are good amount of non-tariff barriers which the Indian exporters face. I'll just share very few examples. One was like when in electronic components, a very important part is there, which is a copper cladding. Of In order to make the electronic devices more durable, you need to have all these metals to be corrosive free and to have a better purity to give an better performance. Recently, the item which was into a TBT was the thermal fuse. It was generally imported because it used a copper thing, and it is generally imported from European countries. Uh, India doesn't produces it, and if they have to enter into this, if they want to supply these kind of goods to the market, it is generally imported. Indian, if even if a person wants to manufacture these items, the amount of capital which is involved is very high, and the amount of time which is required to recover the capital involved is tremendous. So they are majorly imported. So this is a very important thing which is to be catered. And second example I would refer it to is the polypropylene film. It is a kind of a packing material which is used in a capacitor to make the capacitor more performance oriented and to resistive to the environmental damage which is caused. When India was exporting this thing, polypropylene film, as a raw material, the European Union had put a tariff barrier saying it is a packaging material, and this has restricted the trade of India to European Union. And on the other side, South Korea has been allowed to export this product. So this is a kind of non-tariff barrier the people, Indian exporters or any exporter face, and is to be taken up with the government and then to WTO to overcome this barrier. Second, I'll come to second phase, that how the MSMEs can overcome the problems or the global scenario which they are facing in, is like the government has taken up various export promotion schemes for the promotion of exports from India. And these are not just for MSMEs, it is across for all exporters who can utilize it and overcome the price differentiation which is being faced, is just because of the economies of scale or be it any other factor. So herein there are seven I have highlighted in the seven promotion schemes. First is the duty drawback. Second is the advance authorization scheme. Third is the road tip. Fourth is export promotion of capital goods. This one is I came across recently. It was the Dak Ghar Niryat Kendra, and second last is interest subvention scheme, and last the MEI scheme. MEI scheme has been revised, and I will highlight that how the revised MEI scheme, which is now being called as the Export Promotion Mission, is going to help the MSME sector. And I cannot share the details much with you because it's being with the internal discussion that how we can improvise it, and it will be rolled out soon by, I guess, by the month of September. So first is like the duty drawback scheme. The duty drawback scheme is uh, basically the compensation of the customs and central excise duties which the exporters face or incur when they are exporting goods. All these schemes have been lodged just because of the reason that the government doesn't want the exporters to export the taxes, and also to make the Indian goods competitive in the international market. And this drawback scheme has been broadly divided into three parts, that is the All India rate, brand rate, and the drawback for re-export of imported goods. The All India rate is basically the average price of imported material divided by the average amount of quantity which is used. So this is the All India rate. It is generally around majority of the duty drawback scheme benefit is given in the basis of the All India rate. Second is the brand rate. If the exporters is not able to recover it's not able to recover more than 80% of the duties which have been paid while manufacturing the exporting goods, then they can apply for brand rate to the Commissioner of Customs. And the last part is in this is that we can, it's not that we have to manufacture goods in India, we can also re-export the imported goods also. And even on this, the government is giving the benefit of duty drawback. And under this, they are paying 98% of the import duty, which is paid off. Next is the advance authorization scheme. This is basically the duty-free import on inputs, which is for export purpose. It also includes the fuel, oil, and catalyst, which is consumed in production of the exported goods. and it is also considering the wastage which is incurred in manufacturing the good, which is covered under the SION, which is the standard input output norms. If I put it the other way, that how is this? Uh, while manufacturing and exporting jewelry, there is a wastage of gold or any other metal which is used in manufacturing jewelry. So the government has considered this wastage as a part, and it's being considered under the advanced authorization scheme. Under this, the minimum value addition, if a person is applying for this, is the 15% of value addition, and this obligation is to be fulfilled in the period of 18 months. Next is the roadmap. Roadmap is basically, it was started from the focus product scheme first, then it was revised and it was named as the Merchandise Export from India scheme. Then it was again revised and it was split into two, that was the RoadTep and the ROSCTL. The reason behind the revision of RoadTep and ROCTL was to make it more WTO compliant, and the ROCTL focuses upon the textile sector and the RoadTep focuses upon the rest of the other sectors. This RoadTep is basically the rebate on central, state, and local duties and taxes, which is to be refunded. The scheme was launched to make Indian goods more competitive in the international market. The refund is to be in the form of is given electronically through the duty credit scripts. This script is basically used to pay off the import duty if you are importing any raw material, and we can also be handed over to any other exporter if he wants to avail it, and it is given off at a premium price. Next is the export promotion of capital goods. If a company wants to expand their manufacturing units and they want to import machinery from outside, then the export promotion of capital goods is used. It is also used if it is a pre-production or the post-production. Post-production refers to the packaging of material which is manufactured by the company. It also includes the computer systems and software, which is the part of capital goods, and it is basically on the engineering goods. Once a exporter avails it, it is having a validity of 24 months, that is to 2 years, in which it has to be used. If it is not, then it cannot be revalidated. Under this, the export obligation which is to be fulfilled is the 6 times of the duty saved, and it is to be done in the case in a period of 6 years. In case if a person or an exporter is failing to complete the obligation a period of 6 years, they can apply for a 2-year extension, but it can only be done with proper justification to be given to the DGFT. And one of the examples which I had been taken care of was during the COVID period, and it was seen in the gem and jewelry sector because I have served there also. The import of items which are restricted in this are, if it is there, then it is to be get sanctioned from the EXIM Facilitation Committee, which is the DGFT headquarters in Delhi. And if the manufactured good out of it is also an restricted item, then again you have to refer to the EXIM Facilitation Committee to get the due approval from them. Since MSMEs are spread across all the country and you can find them at the villages and tier 3 cities also, in order to give them access and easy access to how to do exports, the government has come up with to promote the exports of small these kind of traders through their local post offices. In this, there are over thousands of Dak Niryat Kendra, through which the exporters can export the goods, and through this they are able to export it to over 200 countries. For this, they just need to register at the DNK portal, and it's a one-time exercise for the first time, and on the subsequent you just need to file in your application like the shipping bill and everything, and the exports will be done from their end. In this, for small amount of small voluminous items which are exported. This platform is a very good where we can do the exports, and from here the parcels up to 35 kgs can be exported, and the rates which is being charged by the post offices varies from country to country and also upon the amount, the value of the goods. The next is the inter-subvention scheme. This was primarily launched for the agriculture sector, but it was later on stretched to the MSMEs also. Under this, the MSMEs can claim 2% inter-subvention scheme on loans up to 1 crore for eligible institutions, and the monitoring bank for this is the SIDBI. The last is the market access initiative. So as I've told, this policy is being revised and it will be rolled out soon, I guess, by possibly by the month of September. This is the scheme which is being used broadly, and the scope of benefit is very wide as compared to the others which I have mentioned before. Uh, the most prominent use of this scheme is when a exporter wants to participate in international exhibitions. Herein, the rates of participation has been revised, and the capping is being done at 1.5 lakhs for African market, and for American continents it is 90,000. If a MSME is exporting it to these countries and they want to set up a warehouse in order to reduce the logistics cost, even here the benefit has been given by the government by subsidizing or giving a benefit up to 5 crores per project for a maximum period of 5 years, and this benefit is given in a phase out manner. This is being extended for e-commerce also, and if a person wants to display their products at the international airports, even then for publicity and decoration, the benefit is given for a period of 5 years. Under this MEI scheme, the sectors which are covered are 18, of which the number of events, if a company wants to participate in international events, this is the number of events in which they are sanctioned on a yearly basis, and this can be accessed. The international participation into the exhibitions can be done through export promotion councils, as they are the authorized body to monitor and execute the participation. This would be all from my side.
Thank you so much, Shomit. And I know we're on top of the hour, but the fact that all the participants are still here on the call just talks about the value of the topic conversation and the expertise that you all have shared today. So once again, a big thanks for sharing your expertise and engaging with the audience. Since we're on top of the hour, what we'll do is I request the audience to post their questions in the Q&A segment, and we will get back to you with their responses. The other thing that we want to do is a short feedback link is coming your way. So do give the feedback before you get started with your Saturday and weekend, so that we can come up with such more sessions which are relevant for you and your learning. And there is a certificate of participation which will be shared with all the participants on their email IDs. So watch out for that. You'll get that by end of the day. The first question has come your way only, Dr. Shoma. And can imposition of tariffs in current era result in depression akin to what followed after Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act 1930 in the US?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question, because Smoot-Hawley has been one of those tariffs which have had. I mean, a lot of things get attributed to that. It's unclear whether it directly caused. See, depression is a strong word, but a little bit of economic growth slowdown, even for US, that is kind of doesn't look like so. It is possible. See, the growth slowdown will come if there are sectoral slowdowns. So there is a distinct possibility. See, because US is a complicated country, it's a big country. We don't. So if you for example, take a look at the stock market. Stock market is doing pretty well. It had gone through a little bit of jitters, but the more or less it's holding. And one of the reason can be it's totally not in touch with what's happening on ground. Or the other explanation can be there is investment happening at certain industries. Those investment rates are still keeping up. So, for example, the AI oriented industries, their investment is happening. And, for all this talk about trade tariffs, it has not hit services yet. There will be some knock on effects at some point of time, probably, but as of now, it's not. So, with a little bit of growth slowdown is entirely possible. This for India also, there is a little bit of prediction that it can result in 0.2 to 0.4. I mean, depending on who is doing the calculation. So again, little bit of growth slowdown is possible, but I won't use the word depression because that's a very strong word. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of these are still at the talk level. Whether we are going to get 50%, what's going to actually happen in terms of the actual tariff we end up getting, different sectors end up getting at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. And somebody already mentioned, I think Mr. Shomit and both of them, Ms. Deepti also mentioned that the businesses also change when the reallocation of resources starts happening. So I won't use the word depression like smooth holly, but there can be definitely, there is a chance of slowdown in the US economy. There is a definite chance of slowdown. Ours, is there a chance? I think maybe Ms. Dipti is in a better position to answer this. Do we think that's going to be a little bit of a slowdown? Some predictions are coming in that there might be a little bit, 0.2 to 0.4, but
Yeah, as I mentioned, that there will be certain sectors that will have a slowdown, at least for this one financial year. But there are many other sectors which are being backed up by PLIs and which are high stake sectors like semicon and all. They will definitely see a big push because a lot of investments is going to come. If we see globally, the global CEOs have shown confidence on the Indian economy. There are big time announcements irrespective of any tariffs on various high strategic sectors in India. So they are definitely going to see investments. If we talk about India as a whole, I think there will be not much sort of an impact in terms of that it is going to shake us. But certain sectors that I mentioned, they definitely will have at least a blow until they try to diversify themselves and do something about looking for new geography, new clients, new customers for themselves. So that is there. But overall, if we see, India has a gain also on certain sectors. So if we are talking about India as a whole, then we have certain sectors which we can push for US itself is going to be impacted by this for sure. So that's there.
Thank you
and
so much for answering this.
the
We
other
have
thing,
a
another thing,
yes.
sorry, I just commenting. Another thing that is, you also know that the government is doing things with GST. I think, Mr. Shomit can also shed some light. That GST rearrangement, lessening of the slabs, the optimism is that it's going to affect the small car segment. Uh,
Definitely be. I'm sorry, I came in between,
no, no, no,
but
no, no.
since like I mean, as discussed and as told that since road tape and the ROCTL schemes, not to make them WTO compliant, what the Indian government has done is to lower the benefit which is to be given to the exporters. I remember it very clearly, like the focus product scheme, which was when I entered the industry, it was around at 7 to 8% of the benefit which was given. Now, if I talk about the electronic sector, it is around 0.8%.
Mhm.
So this has slashed down to a very
Big.
drastically, I would say. So if this GST thing comes into effect, it will definitely increase the profit margins of not just the electronics but across the economy.
As a MSME, one thing which becomes very important is the information flow. I think
Absolutely.
there is a very big gap in the information flow. If I also come from an small scale sector, and if I want to know information about what duties are in which countries and things like that, that information is not there. And also, there are non-tariff barriers, etc. So that sort of information, I think, needs to be really be spread.
Absolutely, sir. Actually, thing is, we have been interacting with the industry members, and you'll be surprising to know that. I mean, if any one person of us like is from the somewhat related to the stock markets, you must have heard of the name of Sahasra Electronics or Sirma SGS. All these are listed companies, but they have very slight amount of information about the benefit which is given by the government. I mean, I was shocked to see this when we interacted with them one to one on a one to one basis. They didn't had any idea about this. And if the companies like this they get access to this kind of information, definitely the exports from India, not just the big players but from rural companies which are at the roots of India, they'll significantly make their impact.
Mr. Shomit, here's a question that, because, information is a big problem. We know that, but export commission, for example, the, import and export, can't we have a simple system where you search by HS code, you identify your industry, and the moment you do that, you get all the list of, trade barriers, tariffs by various countries, all the regulatory hurdles, and all the schemes. Can't we have a simple system that it doesn't seem very
Ma'am,
complicated? No?
Actually, it's very rightly pointed out, and actually, the government is taking efforts in this direction. There is a website which is the Trade Connect India.org. This is the website wherein you can get the tariffs, the export performance, the potential markets you have. You can get access over there. And as
Right.
far as the NTBs are concerned, the portal is being developed. But I'm very sorry to say this, like when we come to interaction with the industry, they are very much kind of protected about the sharing the information, and we don't get the right amount of access to the real life difficulties they are facing in. So we are face a difficulty in reporting these problems to the government, and government wants to address these issues, but just because of this we don't mean able to capitalize on our efforts.
So maybe a
So,
question to ask the
Mr.
MSMEs.
Shom,
Yes, sorry.
sorry, Mr. Shomit, can you share, for the interest of the participants, do you have the website name of the website or the connect, so that the people can go on that particular website? I think it is www.trade.gov.in, if I'm not wrong.
So just give me a it's www.trade.gov.in. This is basically a
Yes.
Trade Connect e-platform.
Yeah.
So this portal is being developed. It will improvise with the period of time. And also, I missed one point. Uh, when a person is exporting, see from tier 3 cities or even from the villages of India, the most common problem, which is largely unforeseen, is the logistics issue. Because shipment of port access is not with everybody. So it's to be done through inland container depots, and the amount of freight which is being charged, it varies from point A to B by different kind of service providers. So the government is building a platform wherein all these service providers are brought in over there, and you can have a fair insight about the freights which is being charged at the same point, and you can connect with them and you can do the exports, keeping in view their export margins. So this is being developed. It will take some time, but yes, the government is working on it.
This is
Just
such
for
a wonderful
yeah.
and interesting discussion, and it could go on and on. But uh, Madam Dr. Bakshi, I mean, we would like to hear from you, because this is absolutely, I mean, much better than what we thought of. Madam Deepti, you were saying something. I think I was rude enough to cut it. So please continue. After
No,
you
it's
should have the
okay.
last word. That's to say the chamber.
Quickly, I just quickly
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to share, the websites which people can refer when they have to look for some of the information. Just wanted people to show. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this is the India
Yes.
Trade Portal. This tells you about the preferential trade agreements we have in place, free trade agreements, which countries, all details are listed here. Including your tender information which you want to get. You can check this. What is the tariff, rates which is there in your HS codes? That all information can also be there. All important initiatives being organized by government entities and government is the exhibitions which are there. If we talk about the Middle East exhibition and China, and we have Australia, various events happening. People can, take advantage, and a lot of government subsidies are also available in many of these shows. So one is this. Second is this DGFT portal where we have the trade statistics. If we want to know about more annual, monthly trade stats and latest trade figures which are there, so all of this information is available in this website. So these two websites are something which are one is India Trade Portal and another is your DGFT Trade Stats website, which give you a lot of comprehensive information in terms of the data figures.
Ma'am, if I could add onto your point, there is one more website which is called as a trade map. This
Yeah.
gives a very good insight about the competitions. If you want to enter or venture into any market, in order to know your competitors, this website plays a very important key.
Okay.
Fantastic. That was lovely.
Fantastic
The
information.
fact,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
the fact that 85% of our population that attended the session is still here, it means whatever we have discussed today, all the resources are very, very valuable to each one of them. So on that note, I really want to thank our esteemed panelists once again for taking out time, sharing their valuable insights, and to all the audience members who joined and stayed till the end. In fact, even beyond time to take this information. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Shoma
bye,
ma'am.
bye,
Thank you,
Bye.
Deepti
Bye.
ma'am, and
Thank
thank you, Shomit.
Thank you,
I
Shoma
mean,
ma'am.
it's an honor to
Thank you.
host you, and we'll look forward to
Absolutely.
more opportunities.
Absolutely.
We'll
Sure,
reach
sure.
out to you.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.